Boop. We're live. Welcome back, and this is round 2. I posted one a little while ago, and if you're one of the people who watched it and you're wondering why it's gone, it's because I did a really bad job. That happens sometimes. A lot of times, it's a secret pastors don't want to share with you, but I'm going to be really honest and say we mess up quite often. Anyway, I think the problem was I had 2 different streams of consciousness going on, like not like another one aside from mine, but 2 different trains of thought at least. And they were fighting for space in the same gourd. There's not that much room up there in this gourd. So anyway, I decided to delete it and then just focus on one of them. What I want to talk to you about today is this idea of when the choices disappear. Because we're living in a world right now where choices really have disappeared for a lot of people. A lot of people who aren't used to not having choices. We live in a world where it seems like all we've got are choices. And as somebody who, works with a lot of you who are younger and have a lot of choices about what you can be doing or what you want to be doing, I can vouch for that. We have nothing but choices, and it's hard to compete with other choices in a world that's full of nothing but choices. And for instance, it's not like you just have a choice, like you can go one place for your groceries. You have tons of places you can go for your groceries. So if you go to one grocery store and they don't have what you want, guess what? There's another one down the street, and there's a good chance that they're going to have what you want. Restaurants. Goodness, any time that people want to go out to a restaurant, the worst question you can ask is, where do you want to go? Because there's so many choices, people can't decide. And then somebody will say pizza, and somebody else will say, yeah, okay, I could eat pizza. And then they have to decide which pizza place they want to go to. And the problem with that is there's a bajillion pizza places they can go to. We live in a world right now where a lot of those choices have been taken away because you don't really have any place you can go. And, we keep harping on toilet paper. But I think, honestly, one of the biggest heartaches for people is not that they can't find toilet paper, but if they do find it, it's not their toilet paper. And that's kind of the hardest choice that we have to make. Can I use a different kind of toilet paper? Life is hard sometimes, and if you're used to having a ton of choices to choose from for just even the basic necessities of life, and suddenly all those choices are gone, it can be really hard, especially when you can't find that special brand of toilet paper. So in times when all the choices disappear, sometimes you just have to take what's available. You have to make do. And in times like, I think that for the most part we don't understand, because generally most of us living in this country in this day and this time, we still have a lot of choices, which is something that should make you understand just how fortunate we really are in the midst of these hard times. But when things are really bad, sometimes you just have to take what's available to you. And then in times like we read about in the Bible, like when we're talking about, say, the book of Ezekiel, which is part of the reading today, or in the book of Revelation and the world that John is living in and the world that he's trying to help his people live through, they have to take what's available. They have to take what's been given to them. And that generally means that they have to take what the Lord has given them. And that means they have to take what they've been given and they have to do the best with it. Ezekiel, for the reading today, is given this scroll that he has to deal with. And he says has words of lament, mourning, and woe on it. And he is told, Son of man, eat what is before you. Eat this scroll. He doesn't really have a choice. He's a prophet of the Lord. He's God's mouthpiece. And he has to take what he's been given, even though he might not like it, and even though he might not like the words that are written on it, he still has to take what he's been given and deal with it and move on. God even says to him, at the beginning of this section, in chapter 2, verse 8, God says to him, gives him a warning. He says, "Do not rebel like that rebellious people. Open your mouth and eat what I give you." So sometimes we just have to take what the Lord has given us, even though we might not find it appealing, or we might not find it entirely tasteful. It's not what we would choose if we had our choices, but it's what the Lord's given us. And John, in the book of Revelation, chapter 10, has to deal with the same thing. He's given a scroll. He's not asked if he wants it. He's told to take it, and he's told, "Take it and eat it." And he's warned. He says, "It will turn your stomach sour, but in your mouth it will be as sweet as honey." And he even says, "It made my stomach churn." That's the Contemporary English Bible version of it. He says, "It made my stomach churn." And I have to wonder, what was it about it that made his stomach churn? And I think it's the knowledge of what the message he was given would mean for the world that he lived in, the world that he was a part of. But at the end of the day, he took what the Lord gave him, even though it was to him distasteful. It wasn't what he would choose if he was given his choices, if he had the freedom to choose what he wanted or what he thought was good or thought tasted good. But he took it and was obedient. So that leads me to the psalm for today. The daily readings, if you've noticed, they follow a pattern. There's usually a psalm, there's usually an Old Testament lesson, and there's usually a New Testament lesson. Sometimes it's a gospel, sometimes it's an epistle, and then like today, it's the book of Revelation. But Psalm 130, 1 through 8, talks about, I think it tells us what happens when all the choices are gone and all the comforts that we rely on are gone. It makes me think of, this whole train of thought today makes me think of in the book of Exodus, when the people of Israel have been delivered from slavery and bondage in Egypt, and they get out there and they don't have a lot of choices they can make. They just have to take what's given to them. They have to take what the Lord's providing for them, like bread from heaven. And they start saying, "Oh, I wish we were back in Egypt. We had like leeks and onions that we could eat by the Nile." You were slaves by the Nile. And now you're free, even though that means you kind of don't have as much you can pick and choose from. You just have to take what the Lord provides you. So my question is, when all the choices and all the comforts are gone, what are we left with? All we have, according to the psalmist, is the word of the Lord and obedience to him. The verses here, Psalm 130, specifically verses 3 through 6, talk about putting our hope in forgiveness. When all of our choices are gone and all of the things that we like the most, all of our comforts are gone, and all we have left is the Lord and what he provides, that means things get pared down in a radical way. And I think that might be some of the hardship that people are going through right now. They're having to learn how to live with all the things that they once trusted in and all the things that once brought them comfort, even though I would still point this out, and it's not just me being cranky, although I am really good at that. They are still really comfortable. At the end of the day, I will leave this office and I will go home and I will put on my Apple TV and I will binge some Disney Plus or binge some Netflix. I will get a cold soda out of the refrigerator, and my life really won't be that hard. And for the vast majority of us, that's the case. It doesn't mean I don't think that there are horrible things going on. I'm just saying you should really think about just how good you have it. But at the end of the day, when all those comforts are stripped away, when all of our choices that we put so much faith and hope in are stripped away, and all we're left with is the Lord and what he provides, the psalmist says we have to put our hope in his forgiveness. We have to put our hope in his word, no matter what it tastes like. It might not be good, but as mothers across the country are saying, that's what you have, you're going to take it. The psalmist says, and I'll close with this, he says, "If you, Lord, kept a record of sins, Lord, who could stand? But with you there is forgiveness, so that we can with reverence serve you. I wait for the Lord, my whole being waits, and in his word I put my hope. I wait for the Lord, more than the watchmen wait for the morning, more than the watchmen wait for the morning. So at the end of the day, when everything that we have put our faith in, all the little things that we have set up before us, that we give praise and worship to, at the end of the day, when all those things have been taken away from us, where are you going to put your hope? I hope it's going to be in his forgiveness, and I hope it's going to be in his word. Have a good day.